Japan looks packed. Neon towers stack into the sky, subways overflow, and the sound of city life seems endless. Yet that's only half the story. Beneath all the shimmer lies a quieter truth. More than half the country is almost completely empty. It's one of the strangest contradictions in the modern world. The Japan we imagine, Tokyo, Osaka, Yokohama, occupies a narrow stretch of land that makes up less than 15% of the nation. Beyond it lie mountains, forests, and thousands of towns nearly forgotten. Out of roughly 123 million people, more than 110 million live along a single coastal strip called the Pacific, or Taiheiyō Belt. This line holds nearly everything Japan is famous for: bullet trains, robotics, and a skyline glowing brighter than any other in Asia. But drive just an hour beyond Tokyo's edges, and you'll meet silence. The highway's thin, the lights fade, and the air begins to smell of cedar and salt. Entire neighborhoods are boarded up. Nature is quietly taking back the land. How could a nation this advanced end up leaving so much empty space behind? To understand that, you have to look at the land itself. A land that shaped not just where people live, but who they became. Look at Japan from above, and one detail dominates every map: mountains everywhere. About 3/4 of the archipelago rises too steep to farm or build on. Valleys are narrow, rivers fierce, slopes unstable. Civilization clings to thin pockets of flat ground like brushstrokes along the sea. That unavoidable geography dictated everything. The Kanto Plain became Tokyo's stage, the Nobi Plain fed Nagoya's rise, and the Kansai Plain gave life to Kyoto, Osaka, and Kobe. Beyond those few regions, the terrain grows rugged and wild, beautiful but unforgiving. In ancient times, settlers learned to work with the land, not fight it. Farmers carved rice terraces into slopes. Fishermen turned to the calm inland seas rather than cross dangerous mountain routes. Travelers described the inner islands as mystical worlds cut off by ridges and storms. So self-contained, they felt like entire nations unto themselves. Geography wasn't just backdrop, it was destiny. When mountains divide people, culture splinters, and from that isolation, Japan's earliest identity was born. Local, proud, and fiercely independent. Before bullet trains connected coastlines, Japan's communities lived like islands within an island. Valleys and plains became small kingdoms, each with its own customs, dialects, and gods. Passage between them meant days on foot through punishing passes or by sail along the coast. Out of this landscape came the age of the daimyo, feudal lords who ruled pockets of territory protected by mountain walls. They built castles on bluffs and fought endless wars for control over fertile lowlands. Power, they discovered, didn't come from vast land. It came from the rare bits of land you could actually use. By the late 1500s, Oda Nobunaga began the long process of binding those fragments into one. Toyotomi Hideyoshi pushed further, and Tokugawa Ieyasu finally sealed unity under the Tokugawa shogunate in 1603. The islands were at peace, politically united, but still physically divided. The new rulers moved their capital east from Kyoto's imperial hills to a quiet fishing town called Edo, a strategic choice resting on a flat plain with easy sea access. Within a century, that plain swelled into one of the largest cities on Earth. Edo would become Tokyo. Inside its walls, trade and power surged. Beyond them, the mountains kept much of Japan frozen in another age. The same isolation that once offered safety now became a cage. When the rest of the world steamed into the industrial era, Japan's geography was about to decide its fate all over again. When Japan reopened to the world in the 1800s, it modernized with astonishing speed. The Meiji Restoration tore down the feudal order and replaced it with railways, ports, and smokestacks. But progress required space, and space in Japan was still limited to that thin coastal ribbon. Industrialization poured everything into those narrow plains. Osaka became the nation's workshop. Kobe and Yokohama became its gateways to global trade. Tokyo evolved into a political and technological powerhouse. The geography that once divided Japan now funneled all its growth into one continuous strip of power, what we now call the Pacific Belt, or the Tokaido Corridor. When the Shinkansen arrived in the 1960s, slicing the journey from Tokyo to Osaka down to hours, it followed nearly the exact route of those early trade roads. A path that once carried samurai now carried millions commuting at bullet speed. Meanwhile, inland Japan began to fade. Towns without rail lines or harbours lost their lifelines. Younger generations left, chasing salaries and neon lights. By the 1970s, Japan was the world's economic miracle, but most of that miracle existed in less than a fifth of its territory. The rest slipped quietly into shadow. The imbalance was set, an urban spine buzzing with energy, surrounded by mountains of stillness. The nation had won prosperity but lost equilibrium, a price that would come due a few decades later. After World War II, Japan reinvented itself again, from ashes to global powerhouse. New companies, new cities, new wealth. But the countryside, it never caught up. For decades, young people left rural towns for stable factory jobs on the coast. Their parents stayed behind, their children never returned. Schools emptied, fields lay unharvested, and entire villages slipped below a population of 100. Today, Japan counts more than 9 million abandoned homes, known as akiya. Some stand surrounded by forest, others cling to streets where the last shop closed 20 years ago. In many mountain towns, the post office doubles as city hall, nursing clinic, and gathering spot. The average resident is over 60. Every time a resident passes away, another door closes. The echoes grow louder than the living voices. It's not only an economic problem, it's cultural erosion. Ancient festivals vanish, crafts wither for lack of apprentices. Every forgotten dialect or recipe is one less thread in Japan's living fabric. For every new skyscraper piercing Tokyo's clouds, another wooden house caves under snow. This is progress with a shadow, one side glowing, the other dimming. Yet even here, among weed-covered paths, some refuse to leave. Their endurance, humble and stubborn, might hold the blueprint for Japan's next renewal. Drive deep into the countryside and you enter a different rhythm. The roads narrow, vending machines become rare. The only crowds are of crows circling wooden rooftops. Hidden among pines, entire villages still exist, just barely. You can spot life in details, laundry fluttering outside a cracked farmhouse, smoke curling from a single chimney, a vending machine humming next to a shrine swallowed by ivy. The silence is heavy, but never empty. It carries memory. Places like Yubari in Hokkaido make the story tangible. Once a booming coal town of 120,000, it now has fewer than 8,000 residents. Schools teach classes of 3 or 4 children. When the last student graduates, the building shuts forever, and often the town along with it. There's no dramatic collapse here, no single catastrophe, just time moving forward and people moving out. Yet, among those who remain, there's devotion. They clean shrine steps, plant gardens, and tell stories to visitors who come more for curiosity than commerce. They hold on not out of denial, but out of respect, proof that identity can endure even when population cannot. Their presence reminds us that disappearance and survival can coexist. What dies in numbers can still live in spirit. Despite the odds, hope flickers in unexpected places. The government's Chiho Sosei, regional revitalization, pours funds into neglected towns, betting on creativity instead of heavy industry. Some villages reinvent themselves as art havens or tea sanctuaries. Others lure visitors with festivals, cycling routes, or even quirky mascots. A few communities survive entirely through local tourism, powered by word of mouth online. Then comes the akiya boom. Homes so long abandoned they're now given away for 1 yen. Digital nomads and young families priced out of Tokyo take the gamble. Social media showcases their restorations. Gardens reopened, shops reborn. Tech companies set up co-working retreats surrounded by rice fields. Farmers test drones and automated tractors on land once left to weeds. Tokushima's mountains attract coders working remotely. Nagano markets itself as Japan's green Silicon Valley. None of this reverses the demographic curve yet, but it sparks movement. It suggests that rebirth doesn't need to mimic the past. It can invent something new. Japan's genius has always been reinvention. Swordsmiths became machinists. Artisans became engineers. Maybe mountain towns can become laboratories for a slower, smarter model of living. Because as the century turns, Japan faces a simple but defining choice. Cling to the bright cities that made it powerful, or breathe life back into the quiet lands that made it whole. Japan now stands between 2 futures. One is dense, aging and running on habit. The other is open, uncertain, and full of potential. With the population expected to fall to around 88 million by 2065, shrinking isn't an option, it's reality. But emptiness can be opportunity. As cities saturate and housing costs climb, rural space becomes valuable again. Experts picture smart villages, small, self-sufficient communities linked by digital infrastructure instead of crowded commuter rails. Energy from the sun, crops from vertical farms, healthcare delivered by AI. Efficient, small scale, deeply human. The same mountains that once divided Japan could soon connect it through technology. Instead of one giant Tokyo, imagine 100 thriving mini-Tokyos, each sustainable and resilient. Japan has rewritten its story before, risen after disaster, reinvented after defeat, innovated after stagnation. Perhaps its next miracle won't be industrial or digital, but ecological, a return to harmony between progress and peace. In the sound of wind through cedar forests and in the lights of a restored farmhouse glowing against the dark hills, you can glimpse that future taking shape. Quiet, deliberate, hopeful. Maybe the story of Japan's empty land isn't about loss at all. Maybe it's about space. Space to rethink what living well truly means. A nation once defined by rebuilding may soon define what it means to begin again.